Meet the Penfold sisters. Bonnie, Molly, Jemima and Matilda. They're from Old Bombine, near Meandara, 400 k's west of Brisbane. Since they were little, they've worked on the family beef property, and now they've grown, they intend to keep doing just that. Their plans caught parents Dan and Karen by surprise.
They've always been saying that's what we're going to do, and we didn't really believe it, quite seriously. So on purpose, they were sent to Brisbane to board for that reason, to show there's a whole world out there and look at all these different opportunities. I think that just made it even more evident in their eyes. They just wanted to be back on the land.
The eldest, Bonnie, she's 21.
She'd be the perfectionist.
Yes, she's very perfectionist, you know. Everything has to be right, spot on. And then you've got Molly, she's 20 now. And she is just a workhorse, she just wants to keep doing things. And then you've got Jemima, who's just turning 18, and she's a worker too.
They all have very good stock ability, but Jemima's stock ability is just another level again.
And then there's Matilda, and she's turning 16, thinks she's 18, but yeah, very capable, but not as interested in the stock work as she is in mechanical things.
What did you learn from your dad when you were growing up?
Everything. So Dad's taught us so much, from how to put a new poly fitting on to feeding to fixing oil leaks and everything in between. So we've learned a lot from Dad, and there's still a lot to come, but slowly getting more and more capable and less reliant on him.
Dan had trouble telling the four redheads apart, especially when mustering.
He used to get really confused, so he came up with the idea that we would all be wearing a certain colour shirt every single day of our lives so that he would know who was who when he looked down and saw the colour shirt.
Bonnie and Molly are studying university externally and working full-time on the property.
The sisters all get up me about how I like to do things all together all the time, but I really enjoy that, and family time is very important to me, so it's good to be here working with everyone. And I just love working with cattle. It's something different. It's always different. Every day is different. So you don't get 2 days the same. And it's... Can you girls stop? You're going to wreck this for everyone.
So is Matilda the naughty one?
Yes, yes.
No, I'm not.
Jemima's about to head off Jillarooing, but will be back to stay.
I like working in the yards and mustering and just anything with the animals, really. Hi, Mum.
Matilda, who couldn't wait for summer holidays at home, still has 2 years of boarding school left.
Thank you.
This year, she's studying aircraft maintenance so she can fly like her dad.
And do you see a long-term future for yourself as part of the family business?
Yeah, eventually I hope to have my own business inside the family business, if that's how it ends up.
These four really get along. They grew up with a rule: sort blues out quickly and move on, or else.
Matilda, Molly and Jemima and I can move the cattle.
To include all four daughters in the business, the Penfolds have built 2 feedlots and increased stock numbers.
When we look at agriculture, the biggest risk we really see is young people staying on the land. And when we speak to even our banks, the biggest risk they actually talk about is family succession planning, that we can all work so hard, we can build businesses, and then what happens in the future. So one of the biggest reasons I suppose we ventured into exporting is, to me, it's actually about family succession.
They have plans to build another 2 feedlots, 1 for each daughter. Dan's been asked if he wished he had a son, but says you can't miss what you don't know, and is blessed to have 4 ag-obsessed daughters.
today, with the modern technology that we've got and the ability to have all the gear, it probably doesn't matter whether you're a man working the land or a lady working the land. They can all still do it. It's not something that's his responsibility to be in the paddock and her responsibility to be in the house.
It's all about working smarter, not harder. So there's nothing girls can't do.
2 years ago, the family's expansion plans were boosted out of the blue. At Beef Week, Australia's biggest beef industry event, Dan started chatting to a stranger.
She said, yeah, we're here from China and we're trying to buy meat from the processors or farmers. I said, well, you've had a lucky day. And so about 5 hours later, we had an email address and they came down and visited us the next, I think it was 2 days later or something.
Nisha Wang and Frank Zhang stayed several days.
Dan has flown them to Roma sale yards. We've educated them about cattle because really they know they want to buy beef, but they really don't know anything about cattle.
But the Chinese pair knew what they wanted. Moderately marbled, grain-fed, heavy Angus cattle.
Like, it was exciting because there was this new thing that could turn out, but also you couldn't get too excited about it because these things happen and fall down all the time.
We spent 12 months talking to them about what they wanted before we ever agreed to send a beast. They came here twice. We went to China before any meat or any money ever changed hands. Can Frank hear me?
Yep.
Yes? All of the spots in the MLA stand are all booked out. So we aren't able to get into the MLA stand in Shanghai.
Frank and Nisha wanted Australian beef to rebuild Chinese customers' trust after meat substitution and food safety scandals. They wanted traceable, clean, green Australian beef and a brand with a story. And so the Four Daughters brand was born.
He can tell this story right back to, I've been there to their house. They've got 4 daughters. Here's the pictures of the girls. Here's the pictures of the girls doing the work. They actually do the work. They run the place. They make the decisions.
How many cattle do they want a week?
To China. That has grown. In 2019, we've done 5 container loads into China. We started off with a 20-foot container, which was 54 head, and then that has increased rapidly. We've gone from 54 to 75 to 89 to 96 to 100, and then going forward they want 150 every month. They have asked for 300 to 500 a month.
So what you're wanting to do is take it from this to a brand that's overarching and then...
Exporting to China is notoriously difficult, and that's where Jerry Damani came in.
We needed to start from the beginning, and that was sitting down, and the first question was, did they have a contract in place?
And did they?
No, not at that point.
Jerry found an export-accredited abattoir and sorted the paperwork to get their first container, worth 6 figures, into China. And when it went missing, she tracked it down.
So thanks to her, I think we've managed to push through this far, and I think from here on in, I think it'll only get easier.
Jerry's also enrolled the family in an ag export course for emerging businesses.
The fact we still are a family farm, but we actually are working with our 4 daughters.
She believes 4 Daughters has big potential, and having red-headed daughters doesn't hurt.
It's not just red hair, it's red crinkly hair. And they're all similar height, all peas in a pod. And absolutely, I think the Chinese were intrigued that there were these 4 girls.
The Chinese don't want the rumps, so they're sold through the Darling Downs and Brisbane. A Brisbane refrigeration transport firm was happy to help the small operation, and staff are now regular customers.
Yeah, the rumps were really good. More so surprised that the 4 girls were having a go, normally in what tends to be a male-dominated area.
The rump runs sell out every month.
But it's really good seeing people when they come back for their second one and they tell you just how good it was and what they did with it, and Some are just so excited about getting their rumps.
The Penfolds plan to expand markets at home and overseas, but will need the help of other local cattle producers.
All good.
Thank you.
No worries. All the best.
If we could grow this, that a whole community could benefit from it, and I think that would be, and I believe it can be done.
But there's been a hiccup in the export business, a big one. The Penfolds' Chinese business partners are in Wuhan, the epicentre of the coronavirus. A container of their beef is on the sea, sailing to an uncertain future. Hopefully, it is just a blip. But it's drought that's holding the Penfolds back at the moment. They haven't grown a fodder crop in 2 years, and the 2,000 megalitre dam hasn't been this low in 20.
Dry as I've ever seen it, we reported just over 5 inches for the year on an average of a 22. So the year before we had about 8 or something. The last 2 to 3 years has been pretty ordinary.
It rained when Landline visited, and the bet was, if it did, they'd dance in it.
20 mils is good, but it's not enough, is it?
No, not enough. Got to go a lot more. We were luckier than some and not as lucky as others, so I'm pretty happy.
Dan says the climate was different when he was the girl's age, with consistent summer rain and reasonable winter falls.
Your girls are going to have to deal with that in a way you never did.
Oh, very much so, and I think that that's probably why we're doing what we're doing with our feedlotting and our more intensive agriculture, because we got a bit more control over the weather.
The prospect, though, of a drying climate hasn't put the 4 daughters off.
I think the dream is to work together and to build the business up so that we all have a little bit of our own part in it, but we all run it together.
Hopefully we've inspired a few younger girls, and hopefully we continue to do so, because it's a great industry to be in and a very rewarding one.